Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Well, in today's video, I want to talk about two settings that are available on most cameras that doesn't cost you anything to use and may improve your photography. The first setting is exposure compensation, and the second setting is auto exposure bracketing. So before we get into it, yes, I know there's different modes you can use. Yes, I know there's different settings. Yes, I know there's different ways of doing it. I'm talking about these two modes today. So exposure compensation, what is it? Exposure compensation is allowing you to override what the camera will set as the exposure. So the camera is designed to take an overall scene and balance it out to neutral gray. So if it's really bright, it'll darken the scene down. If it's really dark, it'll brighten the scene up. Overall, this works really good. But if there's something in the scene like your subject that's already bright and the camera is going to brighten the scene up even more, your subject becomes too bright. If there's something in the scene that's really dark and your camera is going to darken it even more, your subject becomes too dark. Now, two examples, extreme examples, I know it. Bride and a groom. You have the groom with his groomsmen coming down on a ski slope. You're shooting the pictures. It's all white and snowy. It's all really bright. The camera sees that and it wants to darken it down. So it darkens the scene down. You take the picture and the groom and the groomsmen are just black silhouettes. You say, wow, I want to fix this. How can I fix it? Well, what you can do in exposure compensation is you can tell the camera to overexpose the image. You set it, and every picture you take from that point on will be overexposed until you change it back to the 0 setting. Another one, a bride in a coal mine. You take the picture, the camera sees all the dark coal, all the blackness, and it says, I need to lighten this up a lot. And the bride becomes a white ghost, nuclear white, no detail whatsoever. You can tell the camera, no, I want you to go darker than what you think is acceptable. Once you set it, it'll go constantly for that. Where do I use it? The big one that I use it for is when I'm shooting waterfowl. Waterfowl tend to be brighter than their surroundings. And when you take a picture of the waterfowl, the camera will see the surroundings and say, I need to brighten it up. And the waterfowl that's already bright gets even brighter. Now, are there other ways to do this? Yes. You can use manual and adjust it yourself. You can use spot metering mode and use that. But using the exposure compensation is a quick way of doing it that works pretty darn good to get you close, if not exact. You go out, you take one test shot, you see what the camera sees. If it's too dark or too light, you adjust the exposure compensation accordingly. And then from that point on, the camera will put in that adjustment to every picture that is taken. Now, beware. The camera will put in that adjustment to every picture that is taken from that point on. Shutting the camera off and even changing the mode on some cameras will not reset that function. So make sure that if you're changing the exposure compensation, that you're putting it back. Side note, number one complaint from people coming into the studio asking for help with their cameras is my camera is either printing too dark or too light. Not printing, but taking the picture, too dark or too light. And the number one thing is they've somehow set the exposure compensation to be darker or lighter, and they didn't know that they did it. They may have bumped it. They may have done it without thinking, but they've done that. Setting it back to 0, the camera works perfectly fine. So exposure compensation does work. What modes does it work in? It works in program mode, works in shutter priority, and it works in aperture priority. It does not work in the idiot modes, and it does not work in manual modes. So that's one setting. It's on your camera. Try it. See what you think. The next one is auto exposure bracketing. Now, what does this do? When set, this will take 3 pictures, a normal picture, an underexposed picture, and an overexposed picture. On most cameras, you can set the amount you want it overexposed and underexposed. Usually it's the same amount for both, but you can make the spread what you would want. Do you want it half a stop, 3/4 of a stop, 1 stop, 2 stops? How dark do you want the overexposed and the underexposed? And what you do is you go in and you set it, and then you go take a picture, and it'll take 3 frames of each image that you take. One will be underexposed, One will be normal, one will be overexposed. So why would you want to use it? This way, if you're taking a picture of something and you don't have time to adjust, taking the 3 shots will hopefully get you one that's really close. In the olden days, when people used to shoot a lot of slide film, a lot of the pros that I know that used to shoot product shots and even model shots would do exposure compensation, auto exposure bracketing, and they would take 3 pictures of every scene. Then when they got their slides back, they would go through and they would throw out the ones that were overexposed or underexposed and just keep the perfect ones. So it's one way of doing it. It works. It works really well. The problem with it is it does not work well if your subject is moving. If your subject is moving, because it has to take the 3 pictures, it takes 1 picture, then another picture, then another picture. If your subject's moving, you're going to either lose the picture, lose the subject, it'll be out of focus, something will happen. So taking the auto exposure bracketing does not work the best in that area. Where does it work really good? It works really good in still photography. Sunsets, sunrises, waterfalls. Works really good with product photography. It works really good with anything that's not moving, not changing. Works amazing in those situations. Now, unlike exposure compensation, auto exposure bracketing usually resets itself if you change the mode or if you shut your camera off. Some cameras, it'll actually reset after every time you use it. There are settings that you can go in to leave it on to tell it you want it to stay on, but some cameras have it set up so you can use it once and then it resets and you have to turn it back on again. Annoying as all get out. Other cameras, when you turn it on, it'll stay on until you shut the camera off, change modes, or shut it off. So again, there's other ways of doing it. There's other ways of getting better exposures. There's lots of stuff you can do, but these are 2 ways that come with your camera. They're free and they do work. So get out there, try them, and let me know in the comments below what you think about them. Until next time, have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Get out there and take some amazing pictures. Bye-bye now.